Welcome to a new chapter about information technology. Today it's about e-commerce and especially about e-marketing. Let's start with a quick repetition. In the chapters before we'd already talked about e-commerce. So up to now you should know there is e-commerce and there is e-business and that there are different ways to define those two. There are different ways to create a revenue, and on top of this there are different business models. We have seen models, namely transaction costs and the 5 forces by Porter, and both can be used to explain that e-commerce has an influence on commerce in general. The last week we talked about tracking. If you're in the web, if you're surfing from web page to web page, you are tracked. Each web server creates log files which can be analyzed. In addition, there is techniques like cookies, pixel tracking or canvas fingerprinting. Nowadays, it takes a real effort to get anonymous in the internet. However, from the marketing perspective, this is good news because it's possible to specify user profiles on a very individual basis. So personalized advertisements, for example, become possible. And the conflict between reach and richness in marketing, this can be solved. However, from a data privacy perspective, this is a real problem. What can we do with this information we gained by tracking? That's a topic for today, especially when you look on different marketing activities in your web shop. The first thing is you should understand the conversion funnel or customer funnel or purchase funnel. Then you should know the most important approaches in e-marketing, which are display ads. You can do advertisements using search engine, both by ads and by optimization. And there is social media marketing, and probably you have observed that companies are there as well, simply to be placed and to be visible. When it comes to the tracking, there are some important key figures. Namely, we have clicks and we have a click-through rate, we have conversions and a conversion rate, and on top we have different methods for paying in e-marketing. We can pay per click, cost per click, and we can pay these what it's called impressions, and here we pay typically by a cost per mil. On top there is cost per conversion, and you can use these things as well as key figures simply to measure the success of your method, tools and approaches you have taken in e-marketing. But we'll dig into it a little bit later. Probably you have made the following experience already by yourself. If you're going through a shopping mall, then you see lots of people. And some of those people, not all, get aware of certain products. And some of those who got an awareness really get interested, but not all get interested. And of those who are interested, some of those really consider to buy the product, but not all of them. And from those who are considering, maybe a few are buying and purchasing the product, and a few, but not all of them, might come back later on and become a loyal customer to a product or to a brand. And this constant losing a part of these people is simply describable using a funnel. So you can see it here that the triangle is shaped and broad at the very top, but becoming more narrow and narrow if you go way down. This is called the conversion funnel or purchase funnel or customer funnel. And if you Google this term and if you have a look on different ways to visualize this conversion funnel, you see different levels. Maybe you have 5, sometimes you have 3, sometimes you have 7. The name is different, but the concept is always the same. It's a constant losing of people the way down. Why it is interesting if you do web analytics? Because now you can really quantify these levels. In the example here you can see we have maybe 10,000 visitors, which is 100%, and only 60% of these 10,000 are really going into a shopping area within your web shop. And from these 10,000, only 30% place an item in the cart. But even of those, you will lose a few, and maybe only 3% of the 10,000 will really purchase something. And only 1% finally will come back. Think about a situation in a usual shop. To get these kind of figures, to really quantify on which level how many people you are losing, is really an issue. When you're doing web analytics, you get basically these figures for free. And then you can start doing analysis, so you can start to identify weaknesses in your web shop. Where do I lose most customers? Which means should be taken to overcome these problems? Which of these means could have a high return on investment? Or if you think about people coming from the outside, which kind of ads are successful? So how many ads are shown and on how many ads people do really click and end up in my web shop? Do customers come back? The combination of web analytics and a model like this helps you to identify strengths and weaknesses in your own web shop. There are some key figures which have been established in e-marketing. These are the key figures you can gain when you do this kind of web analytics and combine other figures. One of the most important is the impressions. How often is a page or an advertisement requested and shown? How often is a GET request sent so that a certain image, for example, is shown on a web page? If an impression is shown, then typically somebody can click on it. And the question is, how many clicks do you generate? Conversion is the next one. Conversion sounds complex, but usually it's simply somebody is buying a product, at least if you have a traditional web shop. More generally spoken, it's what you expect the customer to do. So think about, for example, the web pages of the FH Aachen. What could be here said is a conversion. Maybe if you think about potential students, it's a download of material which they need to find out if a course of study is a correct one. But if you talk about normal commerce, you can say a conversion is that somebody buys a product or a service. And then there is two ratios. The first one is the click-through rate. It's the ratio between clicks and impressions. So if, for example, an ad is shown 100 times, how often do people click on it? And the same is the conversion rate. It's the relation between conversions and clicks. So if an ad is shown, let's say 1,000 times and 10 clicks are realized, how many of these people who clicked at this ad and are coming to your web shop, how many of those are really buying a product? And this relation between conversions and clicks, that's called conversion rate. On the right hand side, you see some more key figures. These ones are maybe not that important, but you should know them as well. What is a bounce? What is a bounce rate? A bounce is that somebody comes into a web page and directly sees, hey, that's not what I'm looking for, and bounces back, goes back. So if you stay there less than a certain time period, for example 1 second, you would call it a bounce. And the number of bounces compared to the clicks is the bounce rate. So if many people directly bounce back, maybe the expectation is not that good, or there's any other reason why they are not interested in your products. Then you have visits. A click becomes a visit if somebody stays on your website, if you can measure he spends a certain time period or maybe is even surfing around on your website. So it's basically the opposite of a bounce. Then you're interested on how many different visitors you have. So if you just have one visitor coming back and back and back, and to create a lot of clicks, that's maybe not that good. You would like to have many different visitors because then you have many different potential customers. The stickiness describes how long somebody stays on a given web page. And loyalty describes how many customers in percent are coming back. So if you bought something, are you coming back and buying something the next time? The reach is the percentage of the people you have reached in a given market. However, it is sometimes difficult to calculate if you don't know how many people are really in your market. There are different payment models which are in use in e-marketing. And the question is always, what do you pay for? You can pay per impression, and then actually the prices would be that low that you always have packages of 1,000. So the term here is cost per mille or CPM. In Germany, we talk about Tausender Kontaktpreis. However, it could be that you're not willing to pay for an impression, but you would like to be on a safe side and say, I only pay for a click. And then the model will be the cost per click. You pay only if a customer clicks on a certain ad. Of course, this cost per click is higher than the cost per single impression. Why? Because you always lose people, you lose potential customers from impression to a click. That's what the customer funnel is showing you. And then there's a third model, which is cost per acquisition or cost per action or cost per conversion. So the question is simply not to pay for impression, not for a click, but finally for the conversion. For example, if you sell a product or if somebody downloads, whatever is the conversion in your situation. This method is used not that often because it's not that easy to track the conversions, at least if somebody is displaying display ads, these kind of advertisements, he cannot follow up if in the end there's a conversion. The above figures are in the first place payment models. However, they can be used as key figures as well. So if you would like, for example, to compare the cost per mille for one campaign and the cost per click you pay in another campaign, it is possible to calculate, for example, for both the cost per click if you have this click-through rate. And then you can simply compare things, and it's no longer only a payment model, but this cost per click becomes a key figure to compare certain activities. Let's have a look on a somehow real-world scenario. You want to sell a product via the internet. To make your website well known, you have published some display ads. And you want to check if this is a successful method. So here are the ads which are displayed. This should show a number. And some of those ads are really clicked on. These are customers which will show up in your web shop. And some of those again will stay on your website and look around, and maybe they're interested in your products. And of those, some customers will buy. Again, that's a customer funnel, and maybe these circles should become smaller and smaller to indicate that the number of people in this circle is becoming less and less. So here again we have the impressions. All the time an ad is played, for example in Spiegel.online or on gmx.de, that's an impression. And always when somebody clicks on this impression, that's a click. And if it stays longer on a website, it becomes a visit, and finally we have a conversion. And now again we have these two key figures, namely the click-through rate, clicks divided by impressions, and the conversion rate, so the conversions per clicks. You can maybe think about the quality of an ad can be described by click-through rate. So if an ad is very attractive, it should generate many clicks. And you can maybe think about the conversion rate. This measures, for example, if the price is good, if the product is well suited to satisfy a customer. So if once a customer shows up on your web shop and then he really buys, then the conversion rate would be high. And you have to be careful again, because sometimes these definitions may vary. So some people, for example, talk about the conversion rate as the rate between conversions per visits. So you have to take care if, for example, an agency pops up and say, we increase your conversion rate, something like that. It should be clear that click-through rate and conversion rate are both always at smaller than 1. So there cannot be more clicks than impressions, and there cannot be more conversions than people who are showing up in your website. Let's have a look on selected click-through rates and conversion rates. Actually, it's not that easy to get new figures. So the figures I do present, I have all from Statista, and partially they're 10 years old. If you try to get new figures, you often get things which are not that reliable or which are quite special. But in principle, nothing too much has changed. So first, maybe you should think about, if you see a display ad, some kind of advertisement in a web shop or in Facebook, how often do you click on it? Probably not that often. So you can already derive that these click-through rates are not that high. So let's first have a look on the click-through rates of Facebook during the year 2011 and going up to Q1 2012, and then for different countries. And what you can see is that the CTR is given in percent, so be careful. So 0.01 is unequal to 0.01%. So what you can see here is that the level is roughly 0.03%, which is 0.0003. So what does it mean? So if you have a CTR of 1%, that means if a display ad is shown 100 times, you will get 1 click. If you have 0.01% equal to 0.0001, then it means if you have 10,000 displayed ads, then you will gain 1 click. So the factor is really 10,000 in here. And what you can see is, even if the lines are going up and down a little bit, it's not that much. So you have to really have many impressions to gain 1 click. Let's compare it to the click-through rates for emails, for advertisement emails. And here you can see figures from 2014 to 2018, and you will directly see that the figures are higher. So it's roughly between 3% and 4.5%, which means if you send 100 emails with which advertisement out, so not these spam emails, but normal emails, then you would get probably 3 to 4, maybe 5 reactions in forms of a click. Let's have a look on conversion rates. Here you can see a statistic which is by branch in Germany. And what you can see on the left hand, it's pharmacy, and probably here the figures are higher than 10%, which means that, or an explanation could be that the people know what kind of medicine they are looking for, and if they enter, for example, a pharmacy like Doc Morris, they directly go and order. Whereas on the other side, on the right hand side, you see travel has maybe a conversion rate of less than 0.5%. And again, it's probably what you have experienced by yourself. So if you're looking for a hotel or if you're looking for a journey, then you're going around and try to evaluate which is best, look on very many alternatives, and finally you decide. But this means actually you have done many clicks and in the end only one travel is booked. Here's a comparison between conversion rates by device. So you know that there's desktops, tablets and smartphones, and according to this statistic, people are buying things more often when they use a desktop. Why that? Can only speculate. So actually the figures for surfing around are higher for smartphone nowadays, but maybe people feel better if they do some kind of business, if they would like to do a transaction, if they have a desktop. That could be one explanation, but maybe that's only a speculation. Here we have conversion rates by feedback by webshop owners. And this statistics is maybe hard to read. So what you cannot derive from the statistic is that there is conversion rates up to 40%. Up to 40% of the asked web shops have answered, we do have a CR of 1 to 2.9%. And a little more than 20% have answered, we have a conversion rate from 3 to 4.9%. So be careful if you have statistic like that, what is really the message out of it. Let's have a look on different kind of advertisement methods. Let's first look on display ads. You know these display ads if you're surfing in the web. So here you can see, for example, examples by Zeit Online or GMX or Kicker. These display ads are simple banners which show text or pictures and which are added somewhere placed on the website. Depending on the form and the placement, we have different names. So what you can see in the example below in the Zeit Online, that's a skyscraper. A very high form which is left or right to the normal text and which maybe is fixed even though if you scroll the rest of the text. On the upper right corner you see a rectangle, and you can directly see why it's called rectangle, because it's simply a square, rectangle, square. And in the Kicker you can see a leaderboard. This leaderboard is just on top of this article and maybe creates a higher attention. Depending on the form and where the banner is placed, of course you have to pay different amount of money. The payment for these is different. So if you go to the very big newspapers like Zeit or Spiegel, then usually you have to pay for a week a certain amount of money depending on this form and on if you go to the politics side or if you go to the sports side. So what you get is maybe a price for 30,000 euro, and they guarantee you have maybe 1 million unique visitors, something like that. Depending on these figures, you can actually calculate your cost per mille. There are special forms of display ads to get high awareness. These are pop-ups, you know, these kind of special windows which are usually placed on top of the browser, so you have to click them away. Nowadays, most often pop-up windows are disallowed, so you won't see them. However, the idea is quite obvious. They create a high amount of tension because first they have to be clicked away. And then you have interstitials or prestitials. That is, you click on a link and before you get to the interesting part, you first get an ad shown, and after a while this disappears. For example, if you would like to watch a video on YouTube, you often get these first 10-15 seconds an ad. And if the video is longer on YouTube, after let's say 10 minutes, you get a interstitial where another ad is displayed, and you still have to wait until your video continues. So these are special forms of these kind of display ads. Now, how does it go? Most often, so not in the case of Zeit Online, but in the case, for example, of GMX, the display ads are handled by brokers like Edition.com. You remember from last week? So companies like Edition.com not only create profiles, but they are the ones who decide which ad is displayed on which web space. So what happens? Edition.com rents ad space on the publisher's web page. Edition.com distributes advertisements to those pages which are well suited for the advertised products. For example, an ad by Mercedes, the ad customer, is forwarded on the web page by autobild.de. Usually the accounting technique is cost per click in this case. So the ad customer, in this case Mercedes, does not pay for ads which are only shown, this would be an impression. They only have to pay for somebody who clicks on an ad. So all three parties, Mercedes, the ad customer, the visitor of the website, and the one who offers the web page, they all profit only if somebody clicks. And that means Edition.com, the broker, has to know on which web pages what kind of ad is clicked on most likely. That's why they create these kind of profiles. Again, have a look on the picture of last week. So you see yourself surfing around in the network by Edition.com. And based on this information, Edition.com creates a user profile. Now you're going to surf on a web shop or maybe on a page like GMX or Yahoo. And Yahoo then informs Edition.com, and Edition.com now knows, okay, it's you have a special profile, and based on this profile a certain ad is used which is then displayed, and maybe and hopefully this ad will suit and fit to your requirements and needs and wishes. You can do ads as well in search engines like Google. On the right hand side you can see a research page by Google when looking for washing machines. And in the areas circled by a red rectangle, these are paid ads. So this is not a search result depending on the content of your website. This is just by some people who paid to be positioned in here. That's called Google AdWords, and that's called search engine advertisements. In contrast to it, we have this green area, which is called the organic search, and this is more related to the content of a web page. Actually, Google really makes money with these kind of advertisements. So how does this work? If you would like to have an ad on Google, you have to first decide under which term, under which search item you would like to be found. So for example, if you would like to sell washing machines, then you could think about the term washing machine, you could think about washing machine selling, washing machine best price, and so on and so on. So the first thing is really to find out what are the terms you would like to compete for with others. In addition, you can later on filter where you would like to be placed. So you could argue, if you have a local store, I only want to be found, or I only want to show a display ad if the request comes from a geographical area close to Aachen. Or you could argue, I would only like to be shown on a certain device like a smartphone. And then you, as an advertiser, have to assert a certain amount of money. You have to bid on this search item. So you can say, for example, I will bid €1 for this search item washing machine. And payment is here by click, CPC, it's not by impression. So as if you will be shown only and nobody clicks on your ad, you don't have to pay anything unless somebody clicks on your ad. Google offers keyword planning tools. So if you would like to go for a washing machine, then they offer alternative terms which could be interesting for you as well. And they will offer statistics for these terms during the last month or years. Beside Google, there are other companies which offer similar tools. Let's have a look on an example company. There's a company called Big Skinny, which have and produce and sell over the internet thin wallet. So one of these key characteristics is that these wallets are very thin. And you can see that they have bid for several keywords: thin wallets, leather wallet, thin wallet, big skinny in quotation marks, thin leather wallet, thinnest wallets, and so on and so on. And now you can, based on web analytics, get the following statistics. First, you get the clicks. So for thin wallet, 387 clicks were generated. Then you get the impressions, which is 16,582. And based on these figures, you can calculate the click-through rate, which is 2.33%. Now there is an average cost per click. So even if you say we bid 60 cents, it's not always taken 60%. It depends on the competitive situation and some kind of algorithms by Google. So the price can go up and down. But what you can see here, the average price for each click has been 0.53 cent. And you have then a total cost of 387 clicks times 0.53 cent, which add up to $205 and a little bit. There's not only one ad, there are several ads shown, and of course the best position is to be number one. And here it's shown its average position is 1.8. Looking on your internal controlling data, you find out that based on these clicks, 32 conversions have been made. And now you can calculate how much has been a how much has been a conversion to you, so cost per conversion. So it's $205 divided by these 32 conversions, and which leads to $6.41. And of course you can calculate the conversion rate as well, which is 8.27%. Simply looking on this data, you can now start to argue which of the keywords performs best. For example, if you're interested in impressions just to have a reach and would like to simply get many people informed, you're not maybe so much interested to have conversions, then you should look for a high number of impressions. If you are interested in a high return on investment, then you should look for a good cost per conversion, and so on and so on. So if you're doing really this kind of online marketing on Google, then it's your daily issue to look in these figures and make decisions based on these figures. I've had one practical example within a bachelor thesis. So the question has been, is it possible to gain new customers for a dentist using search engine advertisements? The questions to be answered have been, so which search items are interesting? Tooth or teeth? My teeth are hurting, and so on. And how can ads be focused on potentially interested persons? Probably nobody from Munich will travel to Aachen just to go for a dentist in here. How much money should we bet on which search item? And how can we check which click really led to a conversion? For example, consider the following situation. Your tooth is hurting. You look for a dentist, but now you realize it's not hurting that much. However, you have found a dentist already. You've seen the web page. A week later, the tooth starts again hurting, and now you remember that you have already found a dentist, the name, you remember the name. You do not Google anymore. You do not go for search engine advertisements anymore, but you Google directly the name. So it's not that easy to really get these figures together. And finally, you have to decide how much you would like to invest in a conversion. So should there already be a trade-off after the first visit of a patient? The dentist argued, no, it should not be. You make money really in the long run if you have loyal customers. And if somebody turns to a dentist the first time and is satisfied, then most probably he will come back. So the loyalty is really the thing you're looking for, and then you're more willing to pay much for a conversion here. If you don't want to pay for your results at Google, then you have to go for SEO, search engine optimization. So if you are found in the organic search, you don't have to pay anything directly to Google. However, you have to constantly work on your website to get it optimized for SEO, for organic search. So what are really the criteria to be placed on top? Actually, the exact algorithm is a secret by Google, and moreover, this algorithm is under constant change. In the past, an important criteria has been how many links are going to your site. So if many other websites put a link on your site must be somehow important. Nowadays, it's more the content which is important. So Google looks if for a certain keyword your text is good, if this keyword pops up, if it is in the headlines, and so on. Moreover, Google checks if the content is not too old, so if it is updated regularly, and if it is not a simple copy of a text you have got from somewhere. In this case, you're punished. Independent of it, to do search engine optimization is a constant activity. So you don't pay here per impression or per click. What you do is maybe monthly payment. Either you have hired somebody who's doing your search engine optimization. In a big company, you have maybe a complete department doing that. Or you have a contract with a marketing company which is focusing on search engine optimization. Anyhow, you will have to invest monthly, on a monthly base, money for your activities in here. And then there's one important issue. SEO really helps if you do it good. If you're doing it just a little bit, it won't help. Just have a look on your own experience. When you're going into Google, on which page are you accepting the results? Are you only going for the first result page, or maybe for the second? So if, let's say, you have been on place 10,500 for a certain keyword in the past, and you have done SEO, and now you're on place 70, then you have really made a lot of progress, but it's not enough to be really found. Because position 70, nobody really is looking into. So what you have to do is you really have to get on the first place. Finally, let's have a look from traffic from search engines. Again, this statistic is a little bit older. What you can see is if you compare the clicks on a web shop, then where do these clicks come from? Most clicks do come from organic results. So SEO is simply an issue. And then you have in green the AdWords. That's what you paid for. And finally, you have what it's called universal search. That's, for example, if you're on Google Maps or on YouTube and click and follow a link over there, then is it summarized in universal search. However, what you could see is that organic results are the most important one, and in 2014 it has been more than 80% of the clicks which are sampled by Google, which these come from organic results. The final method I would like to discuss is social media marketing. So I'm not talking about display ads at Facebook or YouTube. I'm talking to have as a company an own presence on Facebook or Instagram or YouTube. So this might be important, especially in combination with other means like search engine advertisements or display ads. What is required always is that you have frequent updates and new information regularly. Let's give an example which might be surprising at the very beginning. Maybe you know Hilti. Hilti is delivering thrilling machines, and there's upper class thrilling machines. So the Mercedes under these kind of tools. And Hilti has changed its activities and they have gone into YouTube. And why is YouTube attractive? Because in YouTube you can show really these machines, you can give hints how to use them in the best possible way. And actually Hilti is nowadays spending most of its marketing money in YouTube. I really would like you to go there simply to see how you can do ads and information on these kind of products. Finally, let's have a look on these expenditures for digital ads. So what you can see, the display ads are relatively low, whereas the search engine ads are the ones which are highest. The total amount of expenditures in Germany is increasing over time, and it's increasing faster compared to other methods like ads in newspapers or in TV. Let's have a look on an exercise. It's not enough to simply know the definitions of, for example, CTR or CR. You should be able to do calculations with those terms. So let's suppose we have a company XY running a web shop, and this company is using display ads and SEO and SEA to become better known in their market. The following key figures have been found out. So the conversion rate independent of the methods SEO or SEA or display ad is always 2%. The CTR for display ad is 0.3% and the display ad CPM is 10 euro. The cost for SEO is a monthly cost of 2,000 euro and the cost for the CTR for SEM, search engine marketing, so SEO and SEA together is 1%. For SEA you have to pay per click and the CPC is 0.9 euro. At the end of a month, you find out that 10,000 unique visitors have been in your web shop during the last month. 40% came by SEA, 30% by SEO, 10% by display ads. And here you can say the visitors is actually the same as a click on some of your means outside of your website. The average conversion creates a revenue of 50 euro. So now you should be able to answer the following questions. How many visitors reach the webshop through each method? How many visitors have seen the respective ads, so which means how many impressions did you generate in SEO, SEA and display ads? How high is the respective CTR and the CPM? So if the CPM is given in the one means, you can try to calculate it as a key figure for the other means. What's about the respective conversion rate? What are the costs for the three methods in total? So how much have you invested in your marketing department? What are the costs per month? How high is the revenue per method and how is the cost per acquisition per method? These are all important key figures to, for the next months, decide which of these methods should be continued and which might be discontinued or at least changed a little bit. Try to find answers, try to do these calculations.